We're back with some expert analysis from our political panel. Peggy Noonan is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal and a CBS News contributor. Dan Balz is chief Washington correspondent for the Washington Post. Kim Strassel is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal and one of our moderators at last night's debate. And Jamelle Bouie is chief political correspondent for Slate magazine and a CBS News political analyst. All right, all four of you, here we are on the stage where there was so much excitement last night. I don't want anyone calling anyone else a liar. Peggy, give us your reaction. What happened last night?
It was lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, it's what happens when a field, a uncoordinated field of 17 suddenly becomes 6 men who are really fighting and really want it. There were lots of sparks. To me, there were 2 headlines. One is Donald Trump didn't just have controversial or interesting remarks to say on the invasion of Iraq by looking at Jeb Bush and saying essentially your brother lied to get us in there, and also he was president during 9/11 and he should have made us safer. To me, he was getting into, or he was into, code pink territory, not Democratic Party territory, not moderate Republican, but kind of code pink territory. I'm not sure how that's going to play. I think we may be hearing a bit about it the next few days. Second thing was, I know many people think that Jeb Bush seemed strong in his sparks moments with Donald Trump, but I think too much Jeb Bush falls back on saying he's a 63-year-old man who's constantly saying, don't pick on my mom, don't pick on my pop, my father's the best father in the world. There's something odd and unbecoming about it. We know his parents, we know he loves them and why, that's wonderful. But in fact, Trump was talking about serious issues. I think he should have engaged on that.
Dan, what's your take?
I agree very much with what Peggy said. I mean, I thought this was a debate for the ages last night, and you must have felt the heat. You and Kim must have felt the heat standing a few feet away from
I didn't realize I need sunscreen.
It was remarkable, but I think to Peggy's point, Donald Trump is clearly not a pure conservative in any stretch of the imagination. And instead of trying to kind of sugarcoat that in some way that a politician might, he went in the opposite direction last night. In the short term, in this state where he has a very strong lead, it may not hurt him. In the longer term, as this field narrows, it could very well really be a big problem for him. And I also think that the more there was talk about Bush and the Bush family, as Peggy said, it is a problem for Jeb Bush, because we know even within the Republican Party, for as much affection as there is for the Bush family, there is resistance to more Bushes.
Another, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, I think South Carolina is going to be the test of whether or not Donald Trump can say or do anything, and if voters just keep supporting him, because it wasn't just Iraq. I mean, on a lot of different things, on eminent domain, on the America's approach to Russia, on Social Security, whether you reform it, all these, he's to the left of a lot of the party. And if they just accept that, I think it means that there isn't really anything he can say or do that will ever turn off his supporters or a portion of the Republican electorate. The other thing I did like about last night is that all of the talk and the conversations and the fights, the lie, there was actually a lot of good discussion on policy debates up there about taxes, on entitlements, on foreign policy. And it was good because there were only 6 guys up on the stage. So I think it was a moment for a lot of voters to see a lot more about these candidates than they ever had.
Jamelle, what did you take away from it?
I just want to emphasize Peggy's point that this was a real brawl. I grew up as a kid watching a lot of professional wrestling, and it reminded me nothing so much as a cage match between a bunch of very able wrestlers. With that said, it's true that Donald Trump is much more to the left on a number of issues than a mainstream conservative would be. But my hunch is that Donald Trump is not so much speaking to Republican voters as he's speaking to the broader class of American voters. A lot of people agree with Donald Trump about Iraq. A lot of people agree with Donald Trump about President Bush's administration. And I have this hunch that much in the same way that Bernie Sanders is in a lot of ways not that much different from a mainstream Democrat, but he has the sort of the appeal of a not Democrat. You can still support President Obama, but not have to, pull the lever for a Democrat. I think Donald Trump is a not Republican. For a lot of Americans who may want a change from President Obama, but don't want to endorse things like the Iraq War, Donald Trump offers an option.
Dan, what happens if Trump does well here? Is that it? Off to the races, it's done? You mentioned it once he gets winnowed further, but how much of a big thing would it be if he won?
Well, so much depends on how rapidly the rest of the field winnows. I mean, as long as you have Kasich, Rubio, and Bush competing and continuing to go on, the more difficult it becomes for anybody to stop him. But, you know, I was talking to Terry Sullivan, who's Rubio's campaign manager, in the spin room last night, and their view is this is a delegate battle, as he talked to you in the interview this morning, and also basically a matter of survival, that you just keep going, and eventually others will fall away, and that when you get into the later stages of this campaign, when it is winner take all, that's the time when the anti-Trump faction becomes large enough to be able to carry those states.
Based on the aggression on the stage last night, they may literally fall away as one of them pushes them down.